Okay, guys, now that I'm inside my computer, I want to tell you about the few remaining tax rebates and or stimulus checks. So I got this email today, December 8th, 2022. It came to me about 7 o'clock this morning. It says, find out if your state is still sending you a tax rebate or a stimulus check. So I'm going to cover the few states that we have left. Okay. South Carolina started issuing and printing checks and debit cards for up to $800 in October and will continue through the end of the month. The income tax rebates were approved by the state lawmakers as part of this year's $8.4 billion budget. Illinois is still sending out $50 and $100 rebates, and Massachusetts only began returning the $3 billion in surplus tax revenue in November. Let's see. California. California is still sending out the $1,050 tax rebate, and that will go on all the way up until January 15th, 2023. Okay, guys, I'm doing a $500 giveaway, and it's easy to participate. Number one, subscribe to the channel. If you're already a subscriber, then that's great. Number two, click on the bell icon. That way you'll know anytime I put out new content. Number three, like this video. Okay? And number four, comment below. Thank you, Maurice. And that's it. When I give the money away, it'll be announced on the channel. Thanks, guys, and back to the regular program. Colorado, state residents who filed their 2021 tax return by June 30th, you should have gotten a physical check for $750. But if you hadn't got your check by September 30th, you might want to contact the Colorado Department of Revenue. Delaware approved a $300 rebate stimulus check. If you filed jointly, each person should have received their payment, which started going out back in May. But if you hadn't gotten it, you want to contact the Department of Revenue of Delaware. Florida, nearly 60,000 Florida residents should receive $450 per child to offset the cost of rising inflation, according to Governor DeSantis. Okay, so if you didn't need to apply. So you should have gotten it between July and August. If you hadn't gotten it, go ahead and contact Florida Department of Revenue. Georgia, Governor Kemp signed a bill back in March to send out $250 and $250, $375, and $500 per couple. The Department of Revenue issuing the rebates in May and will continue to issue the rebates. If you hadn't gotten it, contact Georgia Department of Revenue. Hawaii residents who earn under $100,000 or $200,000 as a couple should have received a $300 tax rebate this year. And then individuals who earn $100,000 or more than $200,000 as a couple should have received $100. If you didn't receive this money, you should contact your state Department of Taxation. If you live in Idaho, Governor Little signed a bill, and it's for $75 to each taxpayer and dependent. Checks start going out back in March, but if you hadn't received it, contact the State Department of Revenue. Let's see. What we did, Illinois, Indiana. In Indiana, they're sending out a $125 automatic taxpayer refund. It started going out back in May. Let me see. Indiana residents who haven't received a check by November the 1st should contact the state's Department of Revenue. Maine taxpayers who have filed their 2021 tax returns and have adjusted gross income of less than $100,000 were eligible for $850 this year, and couples $1,700. Checks started going out in July. If you hadn't received your check, you can check the status of it on Maine's government portal. Okay, we already did Massachusetts. Minnesota, certain Minnesota frontline workers were entitled to $750. You should have had your application should have been notified in mid-August with payments going out starting in October. If you hadn't gotten this money from Minnesota yet, contact their state Department of Revenue. Let's see. And New Jersey, homeowners and people who rent houses or renters, homeowners making up to $150,000 should receive about $1,500 on their property taxes, while those earning between $150,000 and $250,000 will receive $1,000. Renters who earn up to $150,000 will receive $450. You should have got it early in the year, but if you hadn't got it, please contact New Jersey Department of Revenue. Okay, in New Mexico, the Land of Enchantment issued a rebate to all taxpayers, $500 individual filers and $1,000 for joint filer, heads of households, and surviving spouses. The payments were broken down in two parts. The first checks went out in June and the second in August. The state also issued $250 rebates in July. If you hadn't gotten this money, contact New Mexico State Department of Revenue. And let's see, New York. Okay, in New York, Mayor City, Mayor Adams signed a grant for thousands of low-income and middle-class city homeowners a one-time property tax rebate of $150. And you should. Okay, the deadline to claim that has already passed. That was in November. Okay, Pennsylvania. And you can check. Okay, Pennsylvania should have got a rebate of $650, and you should be able to check your status if you have not gotten it on the Pennsylvania MyPath website, just by putting in your Social Security number. And in South Carolina, you get income tax refund checks of up to $800. They started going out in November, and they'll be going out from November all the way up to about March 2023. If you hadn't gotten this money from South Carolina yet, you want to contact their State Department of Revenue. Virginia, millions of Virginians received a one-time tax rebate worth $250 or $500 for a couple. This money started going out in September, and they're going to be sending out 250,000 checks or rebates every week. If you hadn't gotten that money, go ahead and contact the State Department of Revenue.